I haven't had an answer for what happened to her. All I want is that answer. They have not given me that chance. We've had to hire doctors to try and figure out what happened to her, been depleted of money, and this just keeps going on and on because 12 hours after she's died, I'm charged with murder. I mean, I don't have anything other to say than this is just not right. Not right.
Hey, Mr.
All right, Billy Cunningham, I have the all-star panel together in one place for the first time ever. The fabulous four are together, and this is the greatest combination of legal talent since Foss Hopkins dined alone. That is Mark Krumbein on my left, Michael K. Allen in the center, and the dog Eric Deters on the far right, which is kind of the way it ought to be right now. You know, this is not bad, but gentlemen, I don't know where to begin, so let's begin with this. We'll go left to right. Mark, give me your reaction to the verdict. Well, when the jury came back quickly, at that point, I finally figured it was guilty, and you know, I'm surprised. It didn't take them long, and it was a murder. It was a murder, and I'm surprised that it came back that quickly. Because you were telling me. You were telling me during the trial, as the criminal defense attorney, well, they don't have it here, they don't have it there. I mean, I'd be surprised, and so were you surprised? I was surprised, and it was, you know, a shocking thing to watch. I happened to be there right then, and you know, you can't help it, whether you think he did it or didn't do it. It's hard to watch a man like lose his whole life in front of your eyes. Michael K. Allen, where do you stand on this? I watched you on TV and radio, listened to you a lot with Tracy and Amazon. You were more or less down the middle, and you were leaning toward the prosecutor side. You were saying it was flawless, so give me your analysis at the end.
I'll tell you what, Bill, I thought the third trial, from the prosecution's perspective, was pretty much flawless. They learned from the second trial. They took ownership of the mistakes and some of the sloppiness, and you know how it is as a former trial lawyer. If you got problems, you take them on. They did, and it was almost, I thought, without a hitch. Not surprised at the verdict. I did think they might have tagged him with the manslaughter, but I am surprised how quickly it came. On the murder case, it's pretty quick.
The Iowa testimony from Jennifer Crew, according to the jurors who talked to Channel 5 anyway, it was irrelevant and immaterial. Do you think it added, subtracted, or added nothing when John Arnold and Travis View put on Jennifer Crew? I'm one of the ones that said, and I'll continue to say, I think she connected with at least some of the women on the jury. I was watching them. We'll see. I mean, jurors will come out and they'll talk at some point. But, Bill, here's the thing, and I said this too. You didn't really need her. You really didn't. The prosecutor had no choice but to call her for political and other reasons, but you didn't need her at the end of the day because it was all about the tub, as you pointed out, all about the water, and Travis View, in closing, just pounded that, and I think the jury picked up on it. Dog, you more or less leaned toward the criminal defense a little bit. You thought there was problems, there were difficulties in the case. Were you surprised, not surprised at the verdict? And they alleged, I think 11 hours is a long time to deliberate in most cases.
I predicted hung jury, though, only for one reason, the cult of Widmer, as I called it. I mean, based upon what happened last time, I thought it would be very difficult to have a third trial without somebody on there that was going to vote for Ryan Widmer no matter what. When it came back quick, I assumed manslaughter as well. But as you know, Willie, I've pounded these airwaves, and I've challenged the free Ryan Widmer people. If your man is innocent, why isn't he taking the stand? And I heard your analysis of that, Willie, but I did a demonstration in the newsroom last night, and I did it again this morning, and I did it at my office, where I played Ryan Widmer, and I explained that 911 call, the bathtub, and everything else. And he's a marketing. I understand he's in marketing and sales. Right. And I'm telling you right now, he gets up on that stand. You're playing to one juror, because if they get hung up again, I think you guys probably agree, Rachel Hutzel, or not Rachel Hutzel, but the prosecutor's office looks at Sarah Widmer's mom and says, we tried, we can't do this the fourth time. They needed to hang this up. And by the way, Jay Clark and his team did a great job. I feel for him. We've all been there. But I think if I was representing Ryan Widmer, I would have made him take the stand. And as you know, Willie, they start out with this, the friendly direct examination from your own lawyer. And then he gets beat up on cross, and then you come back and rehabilitate him. And he's a charmer. You get one woman that says he got up there and fought for Sarah, and he didn't do it. Huge mistake, 3 chances, 3 strikes, you're out. Mark Krumbein, on that issue, obviously at this point, hindsight's 20/20. He should have taken the stand because they got the worst possible verdict, so they couldn't get any worse. If you were sitting in the shoes of Jay Clark,
Would you have put Ryan Widmer on the stand at the end of the case?
Yes. All along, I've said that he should have taken the stand. And I know we got a little view of him when he went before the judge yesterday, and he was sort of fumbling and didn't sound that good. But I still think it was critical that he should have taken the stand. I think the jurors wanted to hear him say, I didn't do it. I didn't kill my wife. And yeah, maybe I can't remember everything that happened that evening. I was in shock and panicking, but they want to hear. And I think it's critical. It's not a criticism of the defense team, though. This is just my opinion, but I think it would be critical. He doesn't, it already came out that he, supposedly looked at pornography. He smoked, he drank, and he might have cheated on his wife. Well, that already came out through Jennifer Crew. So he wasn't going to bring it out by taking the stand, but he could deny it if he took the stand.
Michael K. Allen, as a criminal defense attorney, one of the reasons that according to Brian Combs, the jury in the Ryan Widmer trial based its decision to convict the Warren County man based on the dry bathroom scene in the fateful 911 call. The jury, as not to be identified, also said she based her decision on the fact that Widmer didn't testify. This comes out of the Hamilton Journal News. Yeah. Michael K. Allen, looking back on this, Heinz, you don't want to criticize Jay Clark and Gutierrez because, they're in the pit and we're the observers up in eating the popcorn. But looking at the pit, at the end of the day, would Michael K. Allen have put him on?
Absolutely, unequivocally not. And let me tell you why.
All right.
His little demonstration in the courtroom yesterday was Exhibit A as to why I would not have put him on the stand. He would not have been able to pull off direct examination. I talked to literally every defense lawyer that he ever had in this case. Charlie Ritkers, Hal Ehrenstein, Rob Dish, Jay. Every one of them to a person said, no way.
Why?
Honestly, not to be cruel, because he's goofy, and he would have come off goofy. He would have come off goofy on direct examination, and everybody in this room, maybe with the exception of Bulldog, has tried a case against John Arnold. He'd have killed him on cross. It would have been a disaster. I respect both points of view on this, but
that's what makes a horse race.
Well, absolutely.
Now, the thing that I was told by a criminal defense attorney is that the second group of lawyers hired or asked, there was no money exchange, fellow criminal defense lawyers to direct examine and cross-examine Ryan Widmer. And that the second group of lawyers direct examined him, and then after preparation they said, okay, they played the role of John Arnold. Mm-hmm. And they said that Ryan Widmer was destroyed in cross-examination.
No question about it, Bill. And
destroyed.
You've done this long enough.
And you practice, and you think, oh my God, this is. And then they also videotaped it and showed it to 6 of their buddies who might be jurors, but they weren't, and said, what do you think? And 6-0, guilty. It was like the scene from Superman. Guilty.
No question.
Guilty. And I'm thinking, that's why he didn't testify.
And everyone in this room knows that it is the hardest decision that a criminal defense lawyer has to make as to whether to put that defendant on the stand. And I think it would have been a bloodbath.
But you can't have social network sites saying, free Ryan Widmer, free him. You can't have him crying after his first trial saying, I didn't do this. I didn't get a chance. And here he is last night. I didn't get a chance. He had 3 chances. And I agree with what he said. But if he's innocent, you take the stand. We all know this. Even if one of you all were on trial, one of us cross-examined you for the murder of Ryan Widmer, we'd score some points. Every lawyer scores points on cross-examination, even an innocent person. But if he would have taken the stand and he would have did the best he can through direct, and you get cleaned up on redirect after that cross-examination. Right. What if Ryan Widmer would have said this? Well, what happened was I went in and I saw her and I freaked and I grabbed her and I was holding her and I was crying and I reached down and pulled the plug of the drain and then I started to do CPR and then I said, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. I got to call 911. So I called 911 and then I came back and and now they hear that from him with some emotion and you can say, I know that sounds crazy. I didn't know what the heck I was doing.
But then they say, okay, Mr. Prosecutor, you're a witness. And then,
I know,
Mr. Widmer, you told 911 exactly what was happening inside that bathroom. Is that correct? What's his answer? No.
No, you say to the best of my ability, right, but it was I was in a complete panic, Mr. Prosecutor.
Didn't you say that on the 911 tape that Sarah Widmer was floating face down in the bathtub? Is that true? Did you say that?
Yes, I mean you got to say that.
Are you still saying that? Are you still saying she's floating face down? Mr. Widmer?
Those are the tough.
Is that what you're saying, Mr. Widmer?
That's what I'm saying.
All right, she's saying. Now, explain to me when you pulled her out how no water got on the floor, Mr. Widmer. How'd that happen?
I can't explain that, except I can tell you this. I drained the water. I drained the water. I drained the water. I drained the water, and I don't know.
You pulled her out.
I know.
So,
here's the thing. Whitmer would not have said it like Bulldog's saying it.
No.
He would have whimpered.
Willie, you're a pretty good prosecutor.
Well, facts are stubborn things.
Of course they are. Willie, I think he's guilty. I think he's guilty. I'm just saying, if you're maintaining your innocence, you should take that stand.
Mark Krumbein.
Well, Bill,
you say yes. Michael says no. The dog says yes. Do you see the hand grenades that would have blown up in the lap of Ryan Widmer, and John Arnold would have pulled the plug on him?
I do.
John's good.
I do, but I still say yes. The defense could have said, you're not, maybe Ryan Widmer's not the best witness because he's awkward and he can't speak well, etc. But he's going to be a lot better than Jennifer Crew.
And how about this? How about if he confessed to his defense attorneys? We don't know what the talk was. So they didn't put him on the stand. Brian Combs mentioned this. What if they didn't put him on the stand because he said, I did it, and they didn't want to suborn perjury by putting him up there? I mean, we don't know that. Although I think Jay Clark's emotion was clearly he thought he was defending an innocent man.
Unlike my eminent three lawyers, I said this on the air before, I was invited by the Widmer family to go to the Widmer home about a week after the first trial. And I spoke to Jill, who was a darling lady, his twin brother.
Feel for him.
The father, and I spoke to about 10 other family members. Mm-hmm. And they, to a man and to a woman, completely believed in Ryan Widmer's innocence. He had said nothing but exculpatory things about his behavior. That they were drinking the Kool-Aid. And so there's no way that Ryan Widmer would have told the lawyers.
Okay.
And so
Jay Clark was passionate enough. He was acting like he just lost the life in prison of an innocent man, which is noble.
Well, let me tell you something. In knowing Jay and talking to him, and Lindsay too, they poured their heart and soul into this thing. It was a little bit more than a lawyer representing a client. And I don't know this, but my understanding is they did it for damn near free this time, too.
The third time was a freebie.
Because
they believed in. Now, how many of us would have spent thousands of hours on a case for nothing?
I've done it before many a time.
But on purpose. Maybe you don't get paid at the end. I mean, on purpose.
Nicole Howe's case was, I'm telling you, it was.
But this was and they did it because they believed, based on everything they knew, that he was innocent. That's why they did it. They didn't do it because they thought he was guilty. Let's get a manslaughter. Jay Clark did this because he believed in his bowels this guy was innocent, he was getting railroaded, and he wasn't going to put up with it. That's why he did it.
And, what's so frustrating, what you just read, and I think you read it on the last trial, too, a juror saying, we wanted to hear from Ryan Widmer. Well, hey, okay, juror, open your ears and listen to the instruction that the judge gives you. You are not to hold that against him.
But they do.
They do. Eric's absolutely right. It's so frustrating. It's one of the most basic rights we have, but they disregard.
And Jennifer Crew, people, you all know this. Jurors will say they didn't consider stuff, but you never know when subconsciously it helps. Jennifer Crew, Mark, I thought was great that they called her in the middle of the scientific evidence. They put her in the middle. They bookended her. They took the wind out of the sails with all her negative stuff. They got it out of the way. And even if she was a lousy witness, he still befriended her and thought she was hot. And I say this, you might tend to confess to somebody out of town that maybe you feel a new friend that maybe you don't have to worry about coming. And she still gave the prosecution motive.
And the other thing is, as Mike Allen knows, confession is good for the soul. We Catholics like to pray, walk into the box, say, Father, bless me, Father, for I have sinned. Give me my 5 Our Fathers and 5 Hail Marys. And these guys want to confess. And the other thing they do, we got to take a break. The other thing they do, and it happened with Esme Kenny's murderer, Anthony Kirkland. He confessed to killing Esme Kenny in a way. But when he got down to the killing, he said, I blacked out. Ryan Widmer, when it got down to the killing, said, I blacked out.
They all black out.
They black out.
It's a convenient way not to deal with it.
That wasn't me. It was my evil twin. That body did.
Great point, Willie.
I can't take on to myself the fact that I killed the woman I love.
How many times have you seen that?
A lot.
Yeah.
They
black out.
I had a case with a mother who drowned her baby in a toilet. Her name was Dorothy. I won't give the last name. And she confessed, except when we came down to having the baby gurgle in the toilet, she said, I blacked out. And when I heard I blacked out with Anthony Kirkland and I heard I blacked out with Ryan Widmer, guess what?
They don't want to deal with it.
They don't want to deal with it. And it overcomes you. All right, let's continue. And by the way, jurors are now talking. We have 3 on Channel 5. We have 1 in the Hamilton Journal-News. If you're a juror in this case and you want to call in and change your name to protect the innocent, there's a couple questions I'll ask you off the air to make sure that you're a juror. And then you can come on the air and respond to what this juror is saying in Hamilton, that they wanted Widmer to testify, which you can tell juries 10,000 times don't consider the failure of the defendant, but they always do. You can tell them don't do that.
When I've worked our jury, I said, do you want to hear from the defendant? They all raise their hand.
Absolutely.
Even though presumption of innocence, they want to raise their hand.
Because the jurors are thinking to themselves, as we thought, Mark, if you didn't kill your wife, and you know you didn't kill your wife, you're talking to the cops, you're talking to the prosecutors, and you're getting on the stand.
You're talking to the media.
Aren't you talking, Mark?
Yeah, yeah.
Aren't you talking? Are you talking?
Yes,
yes.
You
want to talk?
Absolutely. They've got to hear that from your mouth. I didn't do it. I didn't kill her. It doesn't have to come. It shouldn't come from a snippet on Dateline where you're saying it. It should come from you right to them, right in the room.
With a defendant who has the cojones to be able to pull it off, and it wasn't him.
All right, let's take a break. We got a couple people on hold that say they're jurors, so I'm going to ask them a few questions off the air to pre-qualify them, and you can change your name, first name, to protect the innocent. So far, at least 4 jurors are talking. I understand there was a pact, right, Mike? The jurors said that let's have a sacred agreement.
Lasted about 12 hours.
None of us are going to talk. And I said, that won't last. No, that won't last. So there's a couple of people that say they're jurors, and I'm going to ask them some questions off the air to see if they are. So let's continue with the Rat Pack. Mark Krumbein, Michael Allen, and Eric Deters, the Bulldog. And they'll be here till 1 o'clock. And then after that, we have Tricia Mackey and Bill Reinhardt and others from the trial. Bill Cunningham, the Great American, live on News Radio 700 WLW. Oh, I spoke off the air. A message was left for me by one of the criminal defense attorneys, and the gag order has been lifted by Judge Bronson, and so I'm going to call him after 1 o'clock today to see what he has to say about this. But with the permission of the All-Star panel, why don't we go to the American people and hear what they have to say?
You have our permission, Willie.
In whose name this verdict was issued. So if you have any question, if you're pro-Widmer or anti-Widmer, and let's face it, all of us are pro-justice, not against anybody or in favor of anybody.
Absolutely.
Because we all know there are sometimes innocent people are convicted, and that doesn't mean they did it. And sometimes guilty people are found not guilty, and that doesn't mean they're innocent.
To be convicted and be innocent would be the worst in the world.
And an old professor of mine named Ronald Raitt at the University of Toledo Law School said to me, it is better for 1,000 guilty men to go free than to have one innocent man convicted. And it's possible.
Yep.
Would you all gentlemen agree, even Michael K. Allen, do you agree that it's possible that Ryan Widmer is innocent?
Of course. But if you would have asked me that about 6 years ago, I'd have said no way. But after doing this for that period of time, I do agree with that. It's possible.
Mark had a great issue last night. He spoke about motive. They've only been married so long. What the heck would be the motive to kill her?
Well, I don't know.
I know, but I'm just saying that's a good point.
They had no assets.
That's what Mark struggles with because he was there at the whole trial.
Married 117 days, or not married 4 months. I made the comment yesterday, maybe, Mark, they didn't know how to fight. Old married people, like the dog, knows how to fight. And maybe you just get married, you don't know how to fight properly in marriage.
It's a good point.
Fight without injury, fight without hate. You don't know how to fight. Could that have been it? They don't know how to fight. Inexperienced fighting.
That could be. But, I went to University of Toledo, too, and I remember
Ron Raitt.
I remember him saying that myself.
He did. R-A-I-T-T-T, Ron Raitt.
That's a basis of American jurisprudence.
And I think it's so important, but it still is troubling. I know the prosecution doesn't have a burden of proving motive, but it's so troubling. This is a guy with no record for violence, no criminal record. He's known as being nice, even-tempered, never loses his temper. And, there's a lot of speculation now that maybe he became a ladies' man, but who knows? Maybe he was just a happily married guy whose wife accidentally or just
they never
ended up
called
dying.
anybody that he fooled around with.
Well, how many women are going to get on the stand and say, yeah, I fooled around with the husband of a dead woman? I mean, is somebody going to raise their hand in 11 and say, that was me? You're going to have to find her with a wormhole. You're going to have to write down.
Did they try to find the woman that he might have had a fling with while the trip happened? Did the prosecutors try?
That was a big thing, big topic during the trial. I don't think they ever did. I think they may have talked to her, but she had nothing to offer
when you say
of relevance.
Her, are you saying, Michael Allen, that the prosecutors had the name and identity of a paramour of Ryan Widmer?
I don't know that, Bill. All I'm saying is that was the big scuttlebutt in the courtrum. And
that they knew the woman that had the affair when they were, you told me St. Louis, not Chicago.
That there
they
was.
Were in St. Louis when the mother.
Maybe she was married and they didn't want to destroy her marriage or
that
something.
There was a paramour. Not that the prosker either
was
knew
there
that.
a paramour?
Don't you pick the weekend, though, Mike? If there's a weekend, they said, this is the weekend you went out of town. Well, doesn't the prosecutor get the phone records and look at all the phone numbers and call them and find somebody?
But Shirley Bonekemper, my old friend, testified. Shirley, the supervisor of Mark Widmer, the Warren County Visitors Bureau, said that weekend he was at this big, long event on that Saturday and Sunday, right? Shirley Bonekemper?
Right.
And so if he had this quickie affair, it had to be a quickie. And then also that Saturday night in the neighborhood, they invited in the neighbors for a party at Ryan Widmer's house the Saturday before, correct?
That's
so that had to be a real quickie. It had to be.
Willie, come on, don't be naive. A fling could take place, in a moment's notice in a car, parking lot, hotel. Come on.
Yeah, but Bill, the other thing is, a week and a half before the death took place, he's away down in Danville, Kentucky, or something with his wife for the weekend. I mean, what are the odds of him having an affair under those circumstances?
You make a great point on motive, Mark.
Thank you.
So we all can agree that, of course, you don't have to prove motive at all, but you like to see one. But it doesn't look like there's a motive.
I agree, Willie.
Well, but here's the thing. You say what you want about the prosecutor calling Jennifer Crew. If nothing else,
gives him one.
Even if you don't believe her with respect to motive, and if you do believe her, she supplied that. And I think she also set up the instruction for the involuntary manslaughter. However, if you don't believe that part of it, she sullies him. She drags him through the mud. So does Waller as well.
I think, the tapestry, the background, and Mark Amazon made this comment a night or two ago, and he's like a regular schlep, not a lawyer. He made a good comment that as a person looking at Ryan Widmer, he looked arrogant, flat, not involved in the case, didn't interact a lot with the lawyers or with the jury. That's a background music. The other background music is what you just pointed out. It's kind of like, and then the other thing.
Didn't like a man's man.
Yeah.
Not a man's man.
And then the other thing is Stewart. When the mother testified, she didn't testify that way in 1 and 2.
She was angry.
and now Sarah's mother in 3 did a really good job of testifying. And there was a part, I think, Mark, you pointed out during the trial that she was sobbing in the spectator section, right? Sarah's mother sobbed at one point during the trial?
Yes, during one point, Bill. And this time, I thought something that really hurt Ryan this time, and I don't think anybody pointed it out, but the first 2 times she said, yes, he told me that he tried to save her. This time she said, I can't remember if he said I tried to save her. That even was like, and now all of a sudden she's talking about hurtful language. They used such hurtful words between themselves.
Differently, and
she
you
did.
can't cross-examine the mother of Sarah. You can't cross-examine her. It's like cross-examining a child. You can't win.
You're right.
You can't, whatever little points you would try to make would
Isn't
be
it
lost.
true, Mrs. Widmer?
No, you can't do that.
You can't do that.
In law school at Toledo, I was a bailiff, and I sequestered maybe 100 juries. And I learned from that when the jurors sit there in the box, and lawyers ignore this, lawyers try the case to the judge. But the jurors are looking left, they're looking right. The first time they've been in court, they don't see these things. They see the mother. They see Sarah's mother crying.
Yes.
They see Ryan Widmer not looking like he's an innocent man. He's looking like they see things that lawyers don't see.
You are so right, and I think so many lawyers miss that. The trial up in Butler County, the goofy twin doctors.
Right.
I forget whoever the lawyer was, but the lawyer was a very experienced lawyer. The facial gestures and the goofiness, but lawyers will say, and you guys know this, hey, look, the jury is watching you behave. They don't listen.
We do it. I know a jury's watching me when I'm up in an objection with the judge, how you react to what they say. You know the jurors are overhearing it. You know when you're sitting with your client, how you react. We are actors in the courtroom during the trial because we know the jury are. I'm not looking at the jury. I know they're looking at me and my clients, and there's choreographing going on, Willie. You're absolutely correct. And all we all saw was Ryan Widmer just sitting there like this the whole trial. Yes.
He looked inappropriate. The mother looked appropriate. When there's bench bar conferences, jurors know someone's trying not to let us hear something.
Right.
So they overhear what's going on. See, jurors have five senses, and they don't.
No question.
And they come in, and I think the staging of that courtroom could have been a little better.
And you're so right about that, and so many trial lawyers miss that. And I'm not saying Widmer's did; they were good, but they don't pick up on, hey, that's
an actor, baby.
I don't know how many times I've told clients, take the gum out of your mouth. Don't chew gum at the counsel table.
Look juries in the eye and react appropriately, and don't. When jurors look at you, don't put your eyes down.
Right. What about the murder trial you won, Willie? And you set Evan, you choreographed Evan sitting in your biography, sitting next to the guy, and that had an impact on the jury. They said, hey, if he's sitting next to your son, if he's all right. So you won a trial with choreography.
I put my young son next to my client who was charged with murder, and a juror said afterwards, would Bill have put his son next to a murderer? Bill knows what, and I did that to choreo, and I kept telling my guy, look at the jury and smile when they come in, stand up and sit down. And Widmer, he had to connect with the jury. He had to look at them, and it didn't happen.
And with our clients, what do we do with our clients? We put our arms around them. We talk to them. We smile to them.
Yeah.
We show warmth to them.
Humanize them.
This is an innocent person. Man, it is a show in that courtroom.
Yeah. I've had my client stand at the rail as the jury's coming in with his mom and dad hugging him and talking to his brothers and sisters. Not part of the court, but the jury sees a human being. And then they watch the mother of the defendant crying. They watch the father hurt. That's got an impact, and you never see it in a transcript.
No question.
Well, we got to take another break. And I promise, we got full lines. We got to get to the telephone calls. We'll begin with Kevin and Morrow, who says you guys are dead nuts wrong, and that he's innocent. He's pure. And Mark in Western Hills says there wasn't one piece of evidence against Ryan at all. So, these are the guys we want on the jury. I'm going to try in my future trials to get some of these people on. This is what we want, right?
God love them.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
All right, let's continue. 513, and I promise to shut the hell up when we continue. And go directly to the jury itself, the American people, in whose name we operate, in the name of the state of Ohio. Bill Cunningham, 700 WLW. All right, now is the dream panel willing to accept calls from the American people?
Absolutely.
Mark Krumbein, Michael K. Allen, and the dog, Eric Deters. Let's continue now with those who may have different viewpoints about this, beginning with Kevin and Morrow. Kevin and Morrow, welcome to the Bill Cunningham Show, and please have at it.
Hey, it's Jason from Morrow. But,
I'm sorry, Jason. Go ahead.
Hey, no problem. Here's how I look at it, man. He was married for 4 months, no motive, no criminal record, and the guy gets put in prison for almost all his life for a dry bathtub and a phone call.
The problem is, Willie, and this is an extreme example. This is an extreme example. OJ, to my knowledge, had no criminal record. In other words, I agree with what he's saying, but unfortunately, sometimes somebody's first crime's a murder. But you make a great point. You make a great point. What you just said.
In murder cases, the non-homicides, if you will, it usually is the first offense, especially when it's a situation where it's a married couple.
Well, Jason, are you contending that a person ought to have the right to kill his first wife but not a second?
Yeah, that's not even funny, Willie. But hey.
Well, I'm just saying, he never killed anybody before. We get one bite at the apple.
Oh, you're the best.
I'm just asking.
You know what I'm saying. Hey, but what about the flesh under Sarah's finger?
All right, a good point, Jason. Mark Krumbein, is there any conceivable explanation as to how on a Monday, August the 11th, 2008, about 10 p.m. in the evening, she had female human flesh under her fingernails? Well, what's the possible?
No, it seems inconceivable because she was fastidious and such a clean person, and she was taking baths and used wipes on the bathtub. That's not the kind of person you expect to have someone's DNA under their fingernails.
Manicure?
Mike Allen, what's the explanation?
Absolutely none, Bill. And I heard that too. As Mark just said, I was waiting for an explanation.
Was it tested?
I'm not sure.
Female DNA.
It was right.
It was
tested?
They thought it would have been one of the witnesses. I forget whose, but I think it's a red herring. I mean, it's not really all that
Didn't know
relevant.
whose it was.
It's an interesting issue, though.
Well, Dog, what about this? Somebody in the newsroom said, when's he going to hold the news conference, Ryan Widmer, and tell the truth about the other woman in the relationship? What if he says...
Too late now.
Well, newly discovered evidence, they won't let it in because you should have known about it, Ed.
Absolutely.
But nonetheless, what if there was another woman, and it was a cat fight, and the other woman did it, and now Ryan Widmer loves that other woman, and he's covered for her, thinking he's going to get off anyway and spend the rest of his life with the paramour.
You never know.
Is that possible?
Of course it's possible.
Well, Mike, if that
the
happens...
problem is you deal with probabilities.
What happens then?
Well, here's the thing, though. I mean, and we all saw it yesterday. This is a guy who ain't going to take a hit for murder for some paramour. I mean,
well said, Mike.
I mean, there's no way. But, Bill, anything's possible, especially in this case. If that did happen, you know how hard it is to get in a trial court, because that's where this would go, a motion for a new trial, to get a new trial granted on even newly discovered evidence. It's got to be truly newly discovered. So, good luck with that.
Could it have been Mark Krumbein, the Waller woman from the state of Washington? Could she have been? Or could it be Stacy Schuler, the sexy Mason teacher?
That would be good radio.
Yes.
Now
We've been promoting that at 700WLW, guys.
But you've been in like 3 trials of this thing going back 2.5 years.
Yeah.
There was no implication or expression of a menage a trois that would have resulted in the female DNA under her fingernails?
No, and you had actually brought that up before on your show. But there's just no one is even. There's not even rumors of that or nothing.
Then give me a possible explanation as to how female flesh gets under someone's fingernail. What is it?
Somebody raised the issue of manicure. Somebody raised the issue of whether or not, earlier in the day, I don't know where she might have went to a public restroom. I mean, to answer your question, I don't know. But let's face it, things get in places we don't expect them to get.
All right. Gentlemen, that's it. We're going to have on later. I talked to one of the criminal defense attorneys, and he may be coming on after 1 o'clock. And we have full lines. I'm going to continue to deal with this till at least 3 o'clock. But I want to thank all of you for your free time. I understand that each of you are going to submit a bill to Chuck Frederick for all the legal time that you spent on this case. And Chuck tells me it'll be paid by Friday.
There you go.
That's wonderful.
I mean, this is highly,
new policies around here.
Highly paid talent. So it's unbelievable. But Mike Allen, thank you.
Thanks,
Mike, is this the end of this case?
I think so. I really do. It's going nowhere on appeal unless something goofy happens, which is possible. I think so.
Which will happen. Yeah. But the 12th
it's going to have to be bad.
Doesn't reverse anything. They don't reverse anything.
Harmless error.
And Rachel Hutzel is now sitting on. She won't hear the case, of course.
But Robin Piper could.
But he ain't reversing nothing.
Exactly.
He's not reversing anything. And then the high Supreme Court's not going to.
And Hutzel's already told him he's guilty.
But Bill, we just heard from that new Hamilton Journal that the one witness or one juror may have disobeyed the court's order to consider that he didn't take the stand. Maybe that's reversible error.
Harmless.
I wouldn't count it out.
That's error, but I don't. It's going to be a high. And the other thing is, according to the purple Kool-Aid drinkers yesterday, there was a couple blog sites that the jurors were on commenting about the case while the case was going on.
You know what? That would be absolutely. They ought to be held in contempt and go to jail if that happened.
If that happened, but is that reversible? If the jurors,
harmless.
Judge
harmless error.
That'd be close, but my guess, the 12th would say harmless.
But I think it could be. I think that could reverse it. And don't forget, may go on to the Supreme Court, and it doesn't matter if the 12th Circuit's conservative. The Supreme Court may say, new trial.
I'm saying harmless based upon if I was a judge. If I'm the defense attorney, I'm going bonkers. I mean, I'm jumping up and down and screaming that this is crazy. And I've had to do that before. And it's tough to convince a judge that it makes any dang difference.
Well, we have the names here of the 12 Widmer jurors that have been posted on a Facebook site of the free Ryan Widmer, which is sad because these jurors are now going to be subjected to personal contact by the Kool-Aid drinkers.
Good luck finding jurors.
By the way, free Ryan Widmer, somebody said it's blown up in their face. Thanks to free Ryan Widmer's website, we had all this connection with Jennifer Crew, Melissa Waller, and I don't think it helped him. All Melissa Waller did is kind of confirm his behavior with Jennifer Crew. So I think the free Ryan Widmer site has hurt The Ryan Widmer calls.
We got to run. Gentlemen, thank you once
Thank
again.
you, Bill.
See
Thank
Billy
you.
Cunningham,
Thanks, Willie.
700 WLW.